ritmo de 1 en 1.
Cannot surrender, that ain't never in my blood. I've been running with my soldiers and we climbing to the top. Man, I will make it working, I'm like, what? You show me what you have, show me what you got, I know that I can take it, oh take it to the chest. I've been through some dark times, way up in the past, so I've been really fighting for it all. I'm like, damn, you wanna bring it on? Well, you better be a champ, cause I keep on running through the rain, cause I keep on going through this pain, cause I keep on carving my way, cause I keep on moving away. Y'all just wanna stop me, but there is no way, cause I've been different, I've been marching, I'm fighting myself away. I'm running through the mountains in my time, I do not waste, cause I be busy working, I be grinding nowadays. Some waves up in the scene, cause I'm the one that's doing it. Well, y'all just make it seem I'll never seen like this, should not be seen like this. Ain't really proper, but I'm rising all above and I'm flying like I'm a chopper. Cause I'ma get it popping, yes I gotta get it rocking. While the people always tell me that I've been really nothing, but I proved them wrong, yeah. Yes, I've been me, and I've been strong, yeah. And you will see that, oh I've been on, yeah. A mission I've been really rising up to the top, hey, to the top in this lane, yeah, I make it work. Cause I just know my effort, I know my worth, and I just know I'm next, yeah, I know that I deserve everything I'm getting, so I will make it work, I will make it worth it, I will get it, and I ain't gonna go panic, cause I am not like a burst, but I'm not so dramatic, and y'all just don't get it, man, that's what it is, cause I've been really up on this, bigger waves up in this bitch. Cannot surrender, that ain't never in my blood. I've been running with my soldiers and we climbing to the top. Man, I will make it working, I'm like, what? You show me what you have, show me what you got, I know that I can take it, oh take it to the chest. Cause I've been through some dark times, way up in the past, so I've been really fighting for it all. I'm like, damn, you wanna bring it on? Well, you better be a champ, cause I keep on running through the rain, cause I keep on going through this pain, cause I keep on carving my way, cause I keep on moving away. Y'all just wanna stop me, but there is no way, cause I've been different, I've been marching, I'm fighting myself away. I'm running through the mountains in my time, I do not waste, cause I be busy working, I be grinding nowadays. Should not be seen like this, ain't really proper, but I'm rising all above and I'm flying like I'm a chopper. Cause I'ma get it popping, yes I gotta get it rocking. While the people always tell me that I've been really nothing, but I proved them wrong, yeah. Yes, I've been me, and I've been strong, yeah. And you will see that, oh I've been on, yeah. A mission I've been really rising to the top, hey, to the top in this lane, yeah, I make it work. Cause I just know my effort, I know my worth. And I just know I'm next, yeah, I know that I deserve everything I'm getting. So I will make it work, I will make it work, and I will get it. And I ain't gonna go panic, cause I am not like a breast, and I'm not so dramatic. And y'all just don't get it, man, that's what it is. Cause I'm really up on this, make a raise up in this bitch. Some waves up in the scene. I'm the one that's doing it. Well, y'all just make it seem. I cannot surrender, that ain't never in my blood. I've been running with my soldiers and we climbing to the top. Man, I will make it work, and I'm like, what? You show me what you have, show me what you got, and know that I can take it, oh, take it to the chest. Cause I've been through some dark times, way up in the past. So I've been really fighting for it all. I'm like, damn, you wanna bring it down? Well, you better be a champ. Cause I keep on running to the rain. Cause I keep on going through this pain. Cause I keep on carving my way. Cause I keep on moving away. Y'all just wanna stop me, but there is no way. Cause I've been different, I've been marching, I'm fighting myself away. I'm running through the mountains till my time I do not waste. Cause I'll be busy working, I'll be grinding nowadays. Hey, what you got? What you know about constantly grinding on with a team? What you know about losing your sleep just for a dream? What you know about making some waves up in the scene? Cause I'm the one that's doing it, well, y'all just make it seem. Y'all never seen like this, should not be seen like this. Ain't really proper, but I'm rising all above and I'm flying like I'm a chopper. Cause I'ma get it popping, yes, I gotta get it rocking. While the people always tell me that I've been really nothing, but I proved them wrong, yeah. It's I've been me, and I've been strong, yeah. And you will see that, oh, I've been on, yeah. A mission, I've been really rising up to the top, hey, to the top in this lane, yeah, I make it work. Cause I just know my effort, I know my worth. And I just know I'm next, yeah, I know that I deserve everything I'm getting. So I will make it work, I will make it work, and I will get it. And I ain't gonna go panic, cause I am not like a breast, but I'm not so dramatic. And y'all just don't get it, man, that's what it is. Cause I'm really up on this, make a raise up in this bitch. What you know about constantly grinding on with a team? What you know about losing your sleep just for a dream? What you know about making some waves up in the scene? Cause I'm the one that's doing it, well, y'all just make it seem, yeah. Cannot surrender, that ain't never in my blood. I've been running with my soldiers and we climbing to the top. Man, I will make it work, and I'm like, what? You show me what you have, show me what you got, and know that I can take it, oh, take it to the chest. Cause I've been through some dark times, way up in the past. So I've been really fighting for it all. I'm like, damn, you wanna bring it down? Well, you better be a champ. Cause I keep on running through the rain. Cause I keep on going through this pain. Cause I keep on carving my way, cause I keep on moving away. Y'all just wanna stop me, but there is no way, cause I've been different, I've been marching, I'm fighting myself away. I'm running through the mountains in my time, I do not waste, cause I be busy working, I be grinding nowadays. Not be seen like this ain't really proper, but I'm rising all above and I'm flying like I'm a chopper. Cause I'ma get it poppin', yes I gotta get it rockin'. While the people always tell me that I've been really nothing, but I proved them wrong, yeah. It's I've been me, duh, and I've been strong, yeah. And you will see that, oh I've been on, yeah. A mission I've been really rising up to the top, hey, to the top in this lane, yeah I make it work. Cause I just know my effort, I know my worth, and I just know I'm next, yeah I know that I deserve everything I'm getting. So I will make it work, I will make it worth it, I will get it. And I ain't gonna go panic, cause I am not like your breast, but I'm not so dramatic. And y'all just don't get it, man that's what it is. Cause I'm really up on this, bigger waves up in this bitch.
Quiere tumbarme, pero ellos saben que yo soy la para. No hablan de frente, pero la bondeja la cosa clara. No son de calle, todos palomos solo se enmascaran. Pero se entiende porque todos te salen doble K. Negro no la venga a contar, no me importa la catita. Ninguno tiene calidad, nada de nada. Sin respeto no vale nada. Mi mente puesta pa' sumar, con esto me voy a quedar. Haciéndolo easy flow Jacob, puesto con la Nike corté. Subo tan rápido tú no lo ves, llegando con miles a finales de mes. Antes eran 2 horas y ahora duermo con 3. Tirando a la cancha como el 23. Frontean con tenis, solo tienen 3. El dedo de tu padre lo multipliqué. Dímelo Nike.
¿Y yo qué culpa tengo si me han tirado a la piscina con el móvil en el bolsillo, papá? Buen argumento, ¿eh? Vamos con esta.
Tranquilo, que tu padre lo tiene fácil. Porque ahora, por ser de mi Movistar, puedes tener hasta 5 dispositivos. Estrenar uno está bien, estrenar más es mejor.
Ah, y carita de pena, eso no falla.
En Imagine tenemos una pregunta. ¿De qué color ves nuestro logo? ¿Verde o azul? Si lo ves verde es porque juntos ya hemos plantado más de 300.000 árboles. Si lo ves azul es porque hemos retirado más de 21 toneladas de plástico del mar. Y es que somos muy azules, y muy verdes, y muy azules, y también verdes, y azules, claro. Imagine, somos lo que hacemos.
Las pequeñas alegrías no son pequeñas, son la alegría. Date una alegría. Venga, Andalucía.
Hello and welcome to Spain's capital for Day 2 and Year 3 of Madrid Urban Sports. I'm Mark Churchill, and over this weekend we have seen over 300 competitors from 60 different countries battling it out across skateboard, BMX, scooter and breakdance. But we are keeping it strictly with the BMX right now and our men's park final. But before we get started, it's time to introduce you to the second member of our team. And joining me live from New York City, the voice of BMX, and the absolute legend, it is Mr. Daryl Now.
Well, thank you, Mark. You're way too kind, but I do have to say it's an absolute pleasure being here with you, with our riders, and all of our BMX fans around the world, because we're going to witness some of the best men's BMX finals go down. And not only are they competing for a big chunk of Euros, but they're also going to be competing for points that are going to contribute towards the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. So this is a big contest for BMX, and I'm honored to be here with you.
Yeah, stoked to have you on board again. And we worked a little bit earlier in the year at the first event of the Urban World Series down in the south of Spain. So let's take a look at what happened at the Andalusia Urban. So much going on down there at the Andalusia Urban. Great way to start the competition circuit off of the year. But now we are back to Madrid, and we've got some pretty blistering heats hitting us up here. We've got about 32 degrees showing at the moment. It was a bit cooler this morning, and it would have been lovely to see everyone riding in that cooler heat. But we've got some seasoned pros joining us for our men's BMX Park final, and they're definitely not going to be shaken by the heat at all. We've got 2 heats of 6, and it will be 2 runs. Best run counts. But here we have our first rider, Alex Sidires.
Alex coming out of Switzerland, so we do have a very international pack of riders represented here.
Second rider, Daniel Penafiel from Spain, 34 years of age. Was absolutely smashing it in practice yesterday. It's good to see him flying around. And the first of our 2 Chinese riders in our final, we got Tianwang Wei, or Wei Tianwang. Oh yeah, nice intro moves there. I like that. And follow up, we've got Xia Xiaolong. Truly international lineup here at Madrid Urban Sports. We got Arnold Montanez. And the last rider of heat number 1, our first 6 riders, is Miller Temple out of the UK, Great Britain. So moving into heat 2, we got Jonathan Camacho out of Ecuador. Good to see the Ecuadorians getting in there. BMX truly is reaching every corner of the world. Out of the USA, we got Bryce Tyron, 22 years of age. Also out of the USA, we got Jacob Thiem. This kid's stoked, as we are to be joining you again and taking you through our men's final. No stranger, I'm sure you know who this guy is. We got the wonderful Daniel Dhers. Qualified through in 3rd place. And our 2nd place qualifier, we have Eric Riziev. Another person who stood out in practice, absolutely shredding. You don't qualify through in second place for no reason. And you definitely don't qualify through in first place for no reason out of Great Britain. Our first place qualifier is the amazing Jude Jones.
Well, Mark, there you have it, our 12 finalists. We did have our qualifying cut the pack down. We are going to be running them in reverse order out there because essentially your qualifying position, you're going to be seeded for the finals. As you mentioned, we're breaking the riders down into 2 separate heats, and they're going to have 2 runs out on the course. It is going to be a best run format that counts. So we're going to talk about that a lot in the competition, but we definitely have some big, heavy-hitting international names. Very cool that we have riders from Switzerland, Spain, China, Great Britain, Ecuador, even Peru as well. And right now we do have a little bit in memory of Pat Casey. We're going to have a look.
If I saw you in heaven, would it be the same? If I saw you in heaven, I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
So nice to play a tribute there to Pat, an absolute legend.
Yeah, it's been a very heavy couple of weeks for BMX. Pat Casey, one of the biggest legends of the sport, unfortunately gone way too soon. He was such an influence not only to all riders in the world, but especially a lot of them in this final. Pat had a really unbelievable backyard course where he actually hosted the X Games. A lot of the pro riders spent time bonding, riding with Pat and his family, learning their own tricks, getting almost a mentorship from Pat because he's been a pro for so many years. Mark, I had the pleasure of announcing and calling his contest runs since he was a teenager and just seeing him grow up all this time. So a lot of love, a lot of missing Pat, and we're thinking about you. And Pat, I know all the riders in the finals are going to be out there riding for you today. So much love to Pat and to his family.
Yeah, our thoughts are with all of his family and friends. Nothing but love coming out of Madrid right now for everyone involved.
So there we just saw the format that we got going on today for the competition. We are going to have 2 runs. Best run is going to count. It doesn't matter if you're a rider in the first heat or the second heat. You are going to be competing against each other. Our 3 judges are going to be giving a score from 0 to 100. And essentially, the numeric value is going to determine which place you're going to be on that podium. We do have Euros up for grabs. We do have gold, silver, and bronze medals. But most importantly, we have points going towards the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. The first time BMX was ever in the Olympics was at the Tokyo 2020 Games. And we actually have our silver medalist, Daniel Dhers, who is here riding, competing. You see how many flags for Venezuela are being held up in the crowd, and that's because he is a superstar. He has been for many years as he's won so many competitions, but this just really gave him a platform on such a bigger international level, and he's been doing so many great things with his home country and creating a foundation and teaching. And it's great, Mark, just to see the progression of BMX, not only but the trick side, but also where the riders are able to harness that kind of superstar power and just build and really give back to the community of riders out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the progression just now, and we are seeing in real time the advancement and progression of BMX in both men's and women's out here in Madrid. And I'm really excited to see where we're taking it in our men's final right now. Looks like we're gearing up to get ready with Alex, the first rider in. It's so hard to be the first rider, isn't it, mate? Like, the nerves are going to get you, especially when it's finals.
Yeah, they can be very challenging. Also, the judges are going to see the riders' first approach to our Central Park. This is such a cool, unique course built just for the competition. We've got big quarter pipes on either end. They're actually 4.5 meters tall. You see the roll-in that he's on. And on either side, they have hips, wall rides, and transfers, but also 2 big box jumps going in opposite directions, which you just saw Alex drop in and do a huge backflip turn down over. So a rider's going to want to essentially just work his way across the course, hitting as many of these ramps as possible, whether they be forward, backwards, transferring from one to the other, and then throwing in big tricks and combinations. The biggest difference is going to be if a rider can keep their flow on throughout the entire time and essentially keep their speed and momentum going. Since this is a UCI-sanctioned event, the judges are really going to want to see the way that a rider is able to ride under that pressure and not have any mistakes. We actually see Alex right here punching out with some time left, knowing that, hey, I got to get a score. I got to have everything going my way for it to really count. And he might just be working off some nerves right there. So sometimes a rider will wind up saving it for the second run, but there can be a lot more pressure stacked on top. So let's take a look, though. That backflip turn down was such a great way to have that entrance out onto the course. And here's a look at the 360 with the bar spin to X up. So the first time around, he threw the bars 360 degrees, put his hands back on, and then twisted that X up around, bringing the bars back.
So 49.33 coming in. Pretty decent score to have ended that run early, but definitely going to need to be stepping it up on run number 2. And it's interesting that you said about it, calling the run a little bit early. And sometimes it's better to conserve your energy if you know that's not the run that you need to take home at that podium position.
Yeah, and our next rider, Daniel Penefiel, has a lot more experience. You see that he's actually an older rider in his 30s. He's a 3-time national champion of Spain, and he's going to turn it up with that backflip and an X-up into that turn down. So he's doing a 360 look back right there, looking smooth and dialed, doing it for Mutant Bikes, also Fly Wheels España. And right now he's just flowing around that course, looking to get the momentum as he does a no-handed backflip with great extension over that box jump.
Yeah, he's got such a comfortable backflip. 30 seconds, right, left for Daniel.
And take a look how he's not using many pedals out on the course. He is doing a little bit of a stutter crank to adjust his speed, but he really has good flow going. If a rider can land high up in the transition, very smooth, and pump into it using their body to push through, they can actually build speed and momentum. And we're seeing Daniel do a great job with that, throwing down the flare in both directions, I believe, and working out the clock, putting the hand up, and getting a big round of applause from our fans here in Madrid. Very psyched to see the Spanish riders flow and style out there.
Yeah, he looks really happy with that first run. Here's those replays. And I just want to mention some kind of competition approach. Some of the riders will take it easy on run number 1 and then turn it up to 11 on run number 2, right?
Yeah, it really depends on a rider's strategy out there. And sometimes you'll see those nerves can be a factor. Sometimes a rider will drop in and they give it a little bit too much juice on the first go, and they like overshoot a landing a little bit, and it can shake them. But then other times you see a rider who maybe has that experience and they can keep their head in the game, because 60 seconds is a long time. And if you mess up on one of these jumps, you basically throw off your course of action for the rest of the 60 seconds. So that's why a lot of times when we get to that halfway mark, it's kind of make or break. If a rider's still pumping and flowing, it shows that they're not lost on the course and that everything is going according to their schedule. Or if it didn't, at least they adapted and are still riding and ripping hard.
Yeah, for sure. And he jumped straight into that first place position after run number 1. We're taking it over to Wei's first run. And our first rider from China. We saw a Chinese domination in our women's competition yesterday, but here's our first run from Wei Tianwang.
Wow, big way to start that off. Backflip double tail whip 2 times over, also known as the helicopter right there. Definitely comfortable when he goes upside down in backflips or front flips. I had an opportunity to watch a little bit of this rider's riding, and there we go. There is the front flip with the turn down, but it was a transfer. So one other main feature of this park is that you do have a lot of these spine ramps in addition to the box jump, and essentially a spine ramp is when you have two steep takeoffs pressed together and you utilize it as a ramp going from one side to the other, but we have all different lengths out here. So if a rider has their speed and they can transfer and jump from one to the other and have that momentum travel as far as the course goes and have a different point with this smooth landing, the judges know that, they see it, and we're actually seeing Wei right now really work both sides of the park, going back and forth, but you see he's also working the length as far as in the middle of the course goes. And he's very excited about that, throwing it up for China right there, getting the fist bump from his fellow rider. And it looks like he's going to be happy with his first run of 2.
Yeah, he definitely should be happy. Let's check out those replays. This is where we started it. Double whip backflip. Landing solid on the pedals.
How committed he had to be with his upper body to get the bike around. And here's a look at the front flip with that turn down. So we did see 2 riders do the back flip turn down. The difference being on that front flip, your weight's going over the bars, your knees are very close to those handlebars, and you have to get your body position out of the way to still be able to extend your legs and twist and manipulate the bike, but not have them get stuck and tangled up. So it's a very difficult trick to do, but he made it look smooth and nice.
Yeah, 100%. And jumping into that second place position. And here is fellow teammate Xia Zhaolong, 20 years of age from China, dropping in for run number 2, starting up on that big roll in.
So we saw a total domination of the Chinese riders in our women's final. The top 7 places of the podium all went to China. They've been putting a lot of investment. Oh, man.
Wow.
Unfortunately, going down right there.
But standing up, and that is something to be said. Hard as nails to get up after that kind of slam from that high. Full send. And, you know, this is finals. People aren't messing around. And we mentioned it earlier, some people will take it easy. Xia definitely isn't out there right now.
No, and that's actually the thought I was just saying, is that China has really stepped up their BMX program, and they really have a lot of facilities that they've built for the riders. They also have a lot of coaches, and they've been working with Daniel Dhers as actually a mentor and teaching some of the riders and kind of an assistant coach, so to speak, with the riders. And we saw that in the women's competition where there was that experience out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how our 2 Chinese riders do in the final. But the fact that we do have 2 riders from China here, and in the past we have not seen that, that just really goes to show how much a support from a country putting into their program for BMX freestyle really feeds back and can make that platform for riders to get out there and progress.
7 points coming in there for that first run for Xia. We're taking it over to Arnold Montanez next.
Montanez from Peru. He's actually a 3-time national champion, and he also got the silver medal at the Pan American Games in 2022. Big ride and starting out with that upside down variation and then looking very comfortable on that quarter pipe, which we should essentially call a vert ramp because that's the height of it out there. But let's see if right now Arnold can keep it flowing as he throws the bars quickly, turning in, looking for a front flip. Nicely done. And Mark, you actually saw the way that he wound up adjusting his body position with his bike to get his rotation speed just right so that he hit his wheels at the same time coming in on the landing. And you can do that by pushing your bike away or pulling it in a little bit closer. There's a look at the back flip doing the transfer, almost like a barrel roll, so to speak, and that's from that extended spine onto that box jump landing. And look at the flow going right now. 10 seconds. Mark, if he could put another couple tricks in at the end, this is going to be a solid one for him.
Yeah, pulling all of that energy through in the last few seconds. Let's see this. Oh no, that one was on the buzzer. Solid riding there. And he's going to be very happy to get that clean run done.
Yeah, nicely done. Representing, as we said, from Peru. Very cool to see how international we are. I believe we have over 60 countries out here being represented at Madrid Urban Sports. And right now we've got Peru in the house with that front flip. And you see the way that he just pulled it in a little bit with his handlebars to his body, increasing that speed. There's the 360 double bar spin. He guides the bars around with one hand, cleanly coming in to the landing. And here's a look at that backflip 180, known as the flare, transferring from the quarter pipe into that wedge landing. And if a rider does come down into a quarter pipe, it's a little bit more difficult than transferring to that landing because of the fact it's a little mellower. And when the landing's mellower and you don't have to worry about the coping on reentry, you've got a larger margin of error. But it was still a great way to end his run.
Yeah, and jumping up into that first place position with a 66.33. That's the way to do it. Still plenty of riders to go, though, as we take it back to the top of the heat. Oh, no, one more rider left, sorry. From Great Britain, we have Miller Temple.
Very excited to watch this 18-year-old rider rip. He actually has been some momentum behind him. He just got a third place at the podium at the Backyard Jam. And he's been riding a lot with Kieran Riley and Declan Brooks, two established pros who have been helping him out on his budding career. And there's a 720 transfer. He got that tail whip where he actually was higher than the ramp that he wound up landing into, which was cool to see because, as we mentioned, that's 4.5 meters tall. But right now, the Team GB rider looking to pour it on as he's getting to that halfway point mark. Big front flip, keeping it down and able to ride out smoothly.
Yeah, you can see essences of both Kieran and Declan in this run. Oh, just missing that. So close. 20 seconds left on the clock, though. Looks like he's going to call it. Maybe needing to do a quick repair. But yeah, that is shaping up to be something special, Daryl. I think that could have been the highest score so far. And Team GB are really smashing it on the BMX scene right now.
Yeah, and this is going to be a good opportunity to kind of talk about what happens if a rider does have some bike problems. You cannot hit pause on the clock, but you could jump on somebody else's bike. But look at the height of that 720 with the transfer, pumping twice. There's that front flip, coming around, spotting the landing clean. Very cool perspective. Here's the 360 bar spin, getting that nose down, landing on the landing. Yeah, so if a rider winds up having a bike problem, which you can see as the Allen keys right now, potentially his bars shifted a little bit, you can't hit the pause button. You could grab someone else's bike. It's going to be a little bit different feeling. Some riders do have two bikes, one on the sideline. And we don't want to see anyone crash, but if you do, you still can continue in that allotted time. Again, there's no pause, no timeout, anything like that. That's why riders have two runs, and it's the best of two that will wind up counting.
Yeah, those handlebars moving into a different position, it may seem just like a couple of millimeters, but that might as well be a mile sometimes. It can have such a detrimental effect on your riding.
Yeah, it can affect your steering big time. If it moves forward, the steering's going to be a lot steeper, and it's going to be a lot more responsive. And if the bars come back, it's going to be a little bit slower for you. But right now, we're going back to the top of the list as we have our Swiss rider dropping in. 50 seconds on the clock. We want to remind everyone in his first run, he didn't get that full pull. But we're going to see if Alex can make it work. Great transfer. I got to say, so far, that was my favorite style trick of the competition as he transferred and just grabbed behind the seat, dipping it down a little bit in that toboggan. And we are just seeing Alex Sideris just flowing on the course, looking for that back wheel manual, not able to get it across. But, Mark, this is a great start with originality, and he's got 24 seconds to go.
Yeah, for sure. You can see he's maybe a little bit more composed, got over those first-run nerves, and looks like he's having quite a lot of fun out there right now.
Yeah, a quick little nose bonk over that spine, just showing you a lot of bike control. Firing back, quick manual on the back wheel this time, and it looks like for the final thought, 3, 2, 1, buzzer. That was after the time, but a big 180, landed backwards, so that's not going to count to his score, but I did really enjoy his style. I'm going to say unofficially we saw some of the more stylistic tricks of the competition so far, but look at the backflip turn down, getting that tweak past 180 degrees where he twists the bars. And take a look here with that transfer, 360 tabletop, just leaning it over, very nice. And here's a look at the flare, backflip with the 180, spotting the coping, coming in, nice.
Yeah, solid run there. So waiting for that second run score to come in. Already got a 49.33 on there. And definitely stepping it up. 56.67 and fourth place for Alex Dhers. Our drone pilot is absolutely killing it today. Getting some great shots. So run number 2 for the Spaniard, Daniel Penafiel. Had a solid first run. Be good to see if he's going to switch anything up. Wow, there you go. There's a way to start the run, Daryl.
Yeah, getting the style, that backflip Superman. I like the way he just hung his feet out behind that back wheel. And you're seeing how composed he is out here. Just landing very clean, getting the pumps into every one of those ramps. And even though he is taking pedals, they're not stressed. And he has that flow where he was able to even get the transfer going from quarter pipe to quarter pipe, throwing in the wall ride, just utilizing the course. And take note, it's past 30 seconds, 30 to go, and he's just flowing, airing in both directions, looking really good. And I know that our judges, especially Axel Jurgens, really can appreciate and respect this kind of riding. But you do have to throw those tricks in. You got to make sure you make it work within that time. Throwing a quick inverted foot plant. And it looks like he is going to wind up taking the last 6 seconds of the run to wave to the crowd and just milk it up a little bit here at Madrid Urban Sports.
Yeah, the oldest rider in the heat, really showing the young lads how it's done. That's the way we started off that run. Great shot there. And I think Daniel's going to be super happy to get another solid run down, yeah?
Yeah, unfortunately, though, he didn't have the entire time on that clock. You want to make sure that you utilize the entire time because it's, you know, we're a UCI final. These are points to the Olympics, but I got to give it to him. Daniel really had smooth, stylish riding. We're going to see how much that last little bit of the run will either take away or add, but he did have a lot of flow, a lot of pump, a lot of speed and style. I mean, those are really key things, but it is that full pull that the judges usually look for.
And we're taking it back to China again. Wei Tianwang. Be really good to see a full run come down from Wei. Very explosive riding in run number 1. And we'd like to see plenty more of that.
Going to also give a shout out to Shadow Conspiracy. I see that he's riding their helmet. They're watching our broadcast right now down in Florida at Juvie Hall Bike Shop. And I know Ron Bonner, the owner of the company, is always psyched to get behind and support our riders and make sure they got the proper safety gear. But that's the coolest part about BMX and the fact that we are broadcast around the world. We got all riders getting a chance to cheer on the international field. And right now, China is in the house with that big front flip, getting that turn down on the transfer mark.
Yeah, landed a little bit low on that one, but still managing to keep the speed going. And 30 seconds left on the clock. This is shaping up to be another great run. Taking the transfer over back onto the box jump.
Smooth with the X up. There's a backflip, and it's going to really come down to these final moments. You hear us talking about that a lot, but the judges really want to see, does a rider have the stamina? Are they able to put it together? And that's usually where that experience comes in. And that's usually where a rider like Daniel Dhers, who have yet to see ride in the competition, really can excel.
But this first heat of our 2-heat final is shaping up to be great so far. Let's check out those replays for Wei Tianwang.
There's that backflip helicopter again. It's 2 times with the tail whips. You see that on both of them. He winds up using his upper body and his legs to help get that bike come all the way around in that rear end, because you need a lot of momentum and you have to make sure that you don't get thrown off your axis on the flip when you have that double tail whip in the mix.
So 62.33 was the score for run number 1, waiting for that run number 2 score to come in. 66.34 is the one to jump into first place, but third place with a 64, so a definite improvement from run number 1. But can he maintain that position as we move forward to teammate Xia Zhaolong? Giving a wave out to the big crowd that's made their way out into this huge park in Madrid. Always the biggest crowds joining us here for men's final. Wow, there we go. It's shaping up to be a good run so far. Here it comes. Looking a lot more composed on this one, Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, we've got basically the first run had the crash, which you never want to do. So the pressure's on. And right now he's starting to really deliver. Shaw's just in that zone, tail whip with the transfer. You see that he landed his foot a little bit on that crank arm, but he was able to get his foot back to the pedal, build the momentum, aired that hip above that wall ride. And there he's able to throw the 360 double bar spin straight to that flare. That's the backflip with 180. And right now he's just working it on the course, trying to rack up as many points, throwing a trick on every single ramp that he hits. As I said that, he wasn't able to execute on that transfer. But right now he's back in the groove with the 360 tail whip to late bar spin. That was a very big one over this short spine. It's only about 6 inches on top of that deck. And he's able to just pull it around and then work out the rest of the clock. And you can see that he's happy with that run. Definitely an improvement from run number 1, Mark.
Yeah, he's stoked and I'm stoked as well. Shah coming through with a solid run, and this is where we started it off. 3 is the magic number right now.
Yeah, getting 3 like that is so committed when you're coming around, again, using that upper body to get the bike. You got to wait to that last second to put your feet back to the pedals. You're almost holding your breath as you transfer across that box jump, and then just have to get the feet back on before that landing comes up quick.
So 77 points coming through, and he has jumped way up into first place position. And that shows you saving all the power for the final hour in that last run. But we take it over to Arnold Montañez's second run.
Peru is in the house right now. Like we mentioned, 3-time national champion, also being a silver medalist at the Pan American Games. And the reason I keep bringing that up, it means he has a lot of experience when it comes to high pressure situations like competitions. Big backflip with the tail whip. The height on that was really great. He had a nice arc right across that box jump, the feet cleanly back to pedals. So that's another good way to start things off. Right now, Arnold is working backwards over that box jump. You see how hard he pumped into that takeoff to just build speed, and he gets the front flip again. 2 for 2 right over that big step box jump.
Yeah, great execution on that front flip, landing so smooth. You see quite a lot of people landing really heavy on those, but he landed really clean. Taking the transfer back over, like off-axis backflip. 15 seconds left on the clock. I'd say pretty much an improvement so far on run number 1, Daryl.
Yeah, it's going to come down to this, though, the final thoughts. That's always what it's about at a contest, and especially a course like this, where it is a linear course. There's not... Yes! Oh! Speaking almost a little bit too soon, going for a big exclamation point at the end of the run. That was the flare with the tail whip. So it's a backflip with the 180 and a tail whip. Got the bike around, but his feet wound up coming off the pedals right there. Not able to get it clean, but still a hard trick to do at the end of the run. So let's take a look at the highlights. There is that big arcing backflip with the tail whip. A lot of height over the box. Definitely the difficulty goes up the higher you go, because you have that speed and you have to gauge your distance with the speed and how hard you're going to pull up on the ramp. There was that flare 180 backflip without the tail whip. You saw the height, and then at the end of the run just had some difficulty with that flare tail whip.
So currently in that second place position with the 66.33 and 64.67 coming through for run number 2. So sticking with that first run score, and currently in that second place position. So last rider of the heat before we hand the course over to heat number 2. Out of Great Britain, we have Miller Temple. Looking a bit zen right now on the platform, Daryl.
Yeah, you want to get in that right state of mind if you're going to drop in and do even a tenth of the tricks that Miller has up his sleeves. Like I mentioned, he definitely's got some great momentum behind him. He's got the team Great Britain who are cheering him on, getting that support. Also, Declan Brooks and Kieran Riley, 2 members, have been giving him a lot of guidance over the last year. And right now, dropping in for run number 2. Let's see if Miller Temple can put it together, 18 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
Big 7, transferring across, looking powerful so far.
Ooh, 720 with the bar spin. Very difficult to do because your weight has to be up in the handlebars, and he's able to throw the bars and then pull the bike back in. Oh, no.
And that's where we saw him fall on run number 1. But he still smiles. We've got 25 seconds. It'd be nice for him to put a show on for the crowd that we have down here in Madrid.
Come on, BMX community, let's collectively get behind Miller Temple, see what he can make happen with the last 15 seconds of run number 2.
Oh, there
Yes.
we go. Coming back and getting it done.
A little bit of sweet justice right there. That's got to be a good feeling. Having some difficulty in run 1 and run 2, and then just getting it done.
But at 18 years of age, Miller has definitely got a long, long career ahead of him, and the future of BMX is definitely in very safe hands, I'd say, Daryl.
Yeah, that 720 bar spin's so cool, and that's what I was talking about, how you had to pull the bike right up inside of you. That was a really cool transfer with that flare. You see how off axis he was and just spinning right there. It was somewhere between a 540, a 900, flare in the mix. It was just all blended together. Super, super unique off axis. And a lot of tricks, when they get that way, it's almost impossible to call. A lot of times I'll ask the riders, hey, what is this? And they go, hey, I'm not even sure. I'm just kind of trying to go around. Call it however you want it. So sometimes we'll just blend it and say, hey, it's a hybrid. It's somewhere in between.
Let's not give it a name. You just want to stay on at this point at our finals. This is the halfway point. We've got heat number 2 warming up and some big names coming through, including our first place qualifier, Jude Jones out of Great Britain, and the absolute BMX legend, Daniel Dhers, one of the most celebrated BMX riders in the world.
Yeah, we're seeing Daniel on course right there. If you are just joining us, this is the Madrid Urban Sports BMX Men's Final. This is a UCI sanctioned event, so that means that the points of this C1 event will contribute towards the Paris 2024 games of who is going to potentially ride in the event, which is very exciting because there will be 24 riders in Paris. BMX Freestyle for the first time ever was at the Tokyo 2020 games. That's where we saw Daniel Dhers, who's riding today, get that silver medal. And we have all of our riders out here looking to bring their A game, riding against an Olympian, trying to get the biggest points. And they're going to have 2 runs on the course mark. Best run is going to be accounting. And we're going to potentially see the level of riding turned up a little bit because these riders yesterday on this course rode it better in the judges' eyes. Not our eyes, but in the judges' eyes. And they were able to get that higher score. And they might have a little bit of an advantage, some might say, going second in the second heat as opposed to the first because of that strategy we've talked about, right?
Yeah, for sure. They've got the luxury of watching what just happened in heat number 1 and seeing where the judges are putting those scores as well. They can look at what is being scored really well and what's maybe not getting the score that you would expect. Obviously, I'd say at this point, everybody knows that they have to land a completely clean run, but it's not just staying on basic tricks. Everybody's going to have to step it up to get on to that podium today.
Yeah, so much of BMX freestyle is really just making the impossible possible, and you've got to always play with that risk versus reward factor. And the riskier the trick, yes, the higher the reward, but you also have to see what are the other riders doing out there. So if you are Jude Jones, qualified first yesterday, he's going to have the opportunity to go last in his second run. And at that point, because it is best run format, anything can change as far as the placements go until Jude takes the final run out there. So it is an interesting thing. You see a lot of times the pressure really build in these situations, but that's where you have veterans like Daniel Dhers, who's going to be our 4th rider of heat number 2, have that experience and be able to really play that game out there with the other riders, feeding off their energy and doing a lot of strategy on the course that goes just beyond their tricks.
Yeah, and we have 2 riders from the USA in this heat, 1 Ecuadorian.
Yeah, the Ecuadorian rider, Jonathan Camacho, he's actually going to be our first rider out on the course. And a little bit of an interesting thing about Jonathan Camacho is when he arrived, his suitcase got stolen. So all of his pads, his helmet, his tools, everything was gone. He had to kind of scramble to get all of that together and get set up for the competition. But right there, we are seeing one of the USA riders, Bryce Tyron, who's going to also be competing out here, 22 years old. Definitely one of my favorites to cheer on. I mean, this heat is super stacked, Mark. As far as the riders go, this is the best of the best. We have national champions, Olympians, and we also have these big clouds that hopefully don't roll in and drop any rain on us out here.
Yeah, but you can see that some of these people are actually enjoying a bit of rain. It's been so hot and it's been really heating up, not just with the riding, but with the weather. And this will maybe be a bit of respite from that temperature, and maybe it'll drop down slightly for heat number 2. But we are going to have a slight delay because we need to make sure that this course is absolutely in perfect condition and safe for all of our riders to ride. And you get that more slipperage, if that's even a word, if the ramps are slightly wet at all. But bear with us while we're waiting for this rain to clear. Hopefully it won't be long. And umbrellas are definitely having a double use today, mate. One for shade and one for keeping the rain off.
Yeah, I mean, the rain, when you basically take any kind of liquid and put it on the ramps, they can get so slippery or it can be extremely dangerous. I mean, sometimes you'll see somebody will put out an edit and they'll do something in the rain, which is absolutely crazy. But at a contest and a competition, you want to make sure that there's an even playing field for all riders out on the course. And you can see how quickly it's accumulating. These are really large drops. You can see that they're almost 2 inches in diameter, some of those drops out on the ramp. And it's going to provide a surface that you really can't ride on, especially that transition at the bottom of the ramp. There is a little bit of sheet metal so that it's smoother for skateboard or scooter wheels to go up. And if you have that there too, that can be basically like riding on ice. And you really don't want to have that at the contest when riders are trying to ride at the top of their ability.
The crowds are staying with us, though. You can see everybody dancing. Our DJ absolutely smashing it out there today. And what a crowd we've got for our men's BMX final here at Madrid Urban Sports.
Yeah, I love seeing the
out there.
I love seeing the crowd just having a good time. If you haven't had a chance to make it to any of our Urban World Series events, you really should start planning now, because we have such a great atmosphere that goes just beyond the BMX competition. I mean, we have scooter, breakdancing, skateboard, but so much more than that. We also have like the lifestyle, the music, the energy, the artwork, the food, and it's just about the culture. So it's really cool, and that's why you can see how committed these fans are. They're just staying with us. It's raining, cooling off a little bit. We saw yesterday in our women's final that it wound up having a little bit of a rain delay as well. But, you know, it's hot. All of a sudden, the rain just dried up quickly and the action went back on. And when you have these dedicated fans that are here for the action, Mark, it's really such a great vibe.
Yeah, it really, really is a great vibe out here. And you can see all of those fans in the background on our replays from heat number 1. See there, Daniel absolutely smashing it out there and getting some of the loudest cheers from our local crowd.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Daniel's riding. He did have that speed where he was able to just land and pump into the transition, and that bike control is such a difficult thing to have. especially on a course like this where you don't have a lot of bold corners that you might in a concrete park or if you were riding an actual bowl. So in a lot of ways, it's like your riding doesn't have anywhere to hide, but when you do show something like that control and able to flow, it just really lets it stand out. So Daniel, some of my favorite riding we've seen of the competition, he just wasn't able to fully put it together in one run beginning to end.
Yeah, and there's a shot of the one cloud in the sky that is delaying us right now for our men's final at Madrid Urban Sports. But you can see that very, very wet course. These are huge rain droplets that are coming down out of one cloud. Hopefully it will pass and we will be able to continue with heat number 2 of our men's park final. But we are building points towards the Olympics, Daryl, and how do you think that affects our riders with their nerves, knowing that those points are so important?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Like we talk about, right, the experience. So someone like Daniel Dhers, who's ridden in a lot of competitions, he can maybe gauge his stress throughout knowing, hey, weather delays sometimes do happen. And there is a lot of pressure because you want to make sure that you can be at the Olympics, if that's even a potential opportunity, because that's so life-changing. We've seen riders with the first time being at Tokyo 2020, all of a sudden their careers just went to a whole nother level of opportunity, sponsorship, and also just having that voice and platform out there. So the fact here at Madrid Urban Sports, we're giving riders an opportunity to try to get some of those points, get exposure, build a name for themselves, and have that building platform. And also the seasoned riders as well get out there and get those points. It's such an important thing, but there are a lot of nerves when it rains and you're ready to drop in, going to battle, and then all of a sudden you have to hit pause on it. You're basically at this extended stressed state in your body where you have all this adrenaline, you have the nerves, and you don't know exactly how long you have to sustain that energy because you are there in that heightened state, and it can be a little difficult thing to manage. But with the addition of all of our coaches and all of our programs and how well we take care of the riders here at Madrid Urban, we know that there's going to be riders taken care of on the sidelines, maybe getting some food, some beverage, working out the muscles in their legs, and just kind of getting ready to drop back into their second run when the weather clears.
Yeah, traditionally, I mean, from my background in skateboarding, you certainly didn't have a coach back in the day. You just have a bunch of mates shouting at you to go crazy on the course. And it's interesting how things have progressed in both BMX, skateboard, and scooter that we've got out here as well. And even in breakdance, we're seeing people with coaches. We're seeing that support network really growing around it. And it really, really does matter, you know, because sometimes you can get caught up in your run. You could get overwhelmed by what's going on and just be a little bit like, I'm stuck in this run and I don't know where I'm going. And sometimes the coach can just take you away from that, where they're not so emotionally committed and they're watching from the outside, and give you that vital advice that you need to be able to get that score and to jump up onto the podium.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you make, that advice, right? Because a lot of times for athletes, it's all within inside them, but having that guidance at those moments and giving an outside perspective can be so helpful, even beyond. And it's not like, a coach is necessarily going to say, hey, we're going to be teaching a rider to do a trick right there at the event. But sometimes just to have that grounding, to kind of manage those nerves, it could be such a helpful resource. And I'm with you, a little bit more old school with BMX, where we didn't have those coaches. We didn't even have parks internationally like there are now. And to have all of that where riders have more opportunity and can get into it with the lower barrier of entry is really exciting. And I think that's a big part as seeing the growth in action sports as a whole across the world.
Yeah, and about those opportunities, there's people who are making legitimate careers out of the sport that they love. And also, competitions like Madrid Urban Sports and Andalusia Open as well, there are you know, the opportunity for people to discover these sports. You know, there's a lot more coverage. You know, back in the day, you wouldn't see these on TV. We didn't even have the internet that much back then. And to be able to get access to see these sports and to be blown away by what people are actually doing is amazing. And if this gets out to more people and more people can fall in love with these kind of sports, then it's definitely doing such a great job. And I am so privileged to be involved and to be here with you today, mate, to see some incredible BMX.
Well, thank you. And the feelings are absolutely mutual. And right now, as we see the course, it's wet, but we do have our team out there drying the course off. They have big squeegees trying to pull any water off the moment that the rain kind of stops and settles down a little bit. But, you know, I'm going to take this opportunity and kind of look at, hey, what are our options if the rain continues? It looks like it's drying up, but according to the UCI rulebook in their bylaws 6.040, they essentially say that the commissary and the technical delegate together with the organizer will decide their assessment of the riding conditions, if they're going to continue and if the competition can still essentially happen. And if there is a weather delay, the contest will be restarted at the point where it stopped. So that's going to be, we're going to pick right back up at the start of heat number 2. And this is unofficial, but we're just trying to navigate these because we're not the commissary and we're not in charge of the event. We're just kind of talking about what could potentially happen in our interpretation of the bylaws. And essentially, because the heat 1 had run 1 and 2 already complete, those will count. And then heat number 2 will wind up having to take both of their runs starting from the start, even though they didn't take any runs. So we're just going to pick up competition. It was kind of a ideal spot if you did have rain come in. Not that we'd want that, but it was pretty ideal. If the rain continues and we're not able to pick back up, well, then the semifinal scores will wind up counting towards the final scores. Again, unofficially, but it looks like we're actually making some progress out here. Yesterday, we saw the rain for the women's final just before competition started to come down, and very quickly it was able to dry with this heat and essentially get the course going. And I think, Mark, when all was said and done, we only had about a 30-minute delay, and then we were able to resume competition.
Yeah, there was a 30-minute delay, and I think these guys will need another few minutes warm-up once we do get the park dry again. But Team Squeegee are absolutely smashing it down there. And I think maybe the guy in the black T-shirt is winning the Squeegee competition so far. I'd say I'd give him about a 62.4 for his efforts so far. Yeah, pretty high scores. Some people would say that's quite controversial, but I know my squeegeeing. Living in the UK, we have to deal with quite a lot of precipitation, and I know you get a bit out in New York as well, mate.
We do, but even still, a 62 out of 100, those are some tough judge scores right there. But we'll see. Maybe he'll be able to pick it up, or some of the other competitors on the course can pull off a little bit more water as we wait for the action to continue here in our men's BMX final. And you can see that the rain definitely has settled down a little bit, but there's still big smiles on all of our fans' faces out here as we get ready to continue the action. But we do have to make sure that the course is completely dry. It's got to be even playing field for all riders. And again, the slightest little moisture between the rubber of your tire and the ramp can just be so slippery and cause a crash that I don't even want to think about, because as a rider, and you know, as a rider yourself, and you wind up dropping in bike or skateboard and you just hit a little bit of water, the results are not good.
Yeah, you usually find yourself sat on the floor wondering why you're there and why you're in so much pain. And we saw, like, from heat number 1, sometimes there's a little bit of sideways landings that go on, and you can get away with it with a tire on a BMX, but if it's wet, you're not going to get away with that at all. That grip is just gone. But we've got a great team working on getting this thing dry. We definitely want it to be an even playing field. Oh, and we've upped the stakes a bit. We've got the blower out now. You know, we're wasting no expense to try and get this thing dry out here, Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, we want to make sure that we're able to kind of help the weather along. And what I mean by that, because you can see the temperature, 32 degrees Celsius, that's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is very hot. We do have that wind 11 kilometers, so that can help also kind of blow off the course a little bit. You see that slight breeze in the trees, but it is still very wet out there, and we're working towards cleaning and clearing this up.
Yeah, earlier on it was getting pretty humid. You could feel that something was going to happen. I was putting it down to the atmosphere that we've got out here in Madrid from seeing heat number 1 of our men's BMX finals on the park. But yeah, something had to give, and it was a huge cloud that came over and soaked the whole course. So thank you very much for bearing with us at the moment. We're hopefully going to get the second heat of our finals underway very soon, and Team Squeegee are doing the best they can.
Yeah, going to take an opportunity right here and give a little bit of shine to some of our judges who had the difficult job of giving those numeric scores 0 to 100 for our riders out there. We have Jesus Fuentes, we have Nuno Milhanos, and we also have Axel Jurgens, who is originally from Argentina, but he's been living in Spain just about an hour outside of Barcelona. And he actually has a Eurocamp construction company where he builds different skate parks all around Spain, and has been helping a lot with that infrastructure for, like we mentioned, kind of the youth of the future of these sports having an opportunity to ride, whether it's concrete or wood, and just having these different obstacles and working hand in hand with towns. So that's a really cool aspect. We talk about BMX freestyle and skating now being in the Olympics, but you're seeing more opportunities and more career paths for different riders who want to continue with the sport and kind of give their own creative outlet that goes just even beyond competition. So having those elements, Mark, is really a cool thing to see the growth of the sport on every level.
Yeah, nothing but growth going on right now in all of those sports, and we're just having a small delay for rain at the moment. You mentioned Barcelona earlier. That's going to be the third event of the year here for Urban World Series. We saw earlier in the year our Andalusia Urban competition, the first competition to be taking place down in the south of Spain. We both did that one remotely. I was hoping to go down there. It looked like such a great competition. And we'll be finishing off the series in Barcelona. Such a great place, certainly for skateboarding and for street riding in general, and very accepting of everyone just hitting the streets down there. We saw so much going on yesterday, and it would be nice to see some sort of street competition going on as well with BMX. That has been another side of BMX that I've been following and that I find super interesting, with the progression of the whole sport in general, and what people are doing out in the streets is incredible at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you bring both of those aspects up, the street riding and also the fact that we'll be in Barcelona. We'll be there in September 15th through 17th, so mark your calendars. And if you are a street rider or a park rider or just want to come out and hang, it doesn't have to be just BMX, definitely come on out. But if you are a BMX rider in particular, I'm going to give you a little bit of a potential itinerary. I'm just going to kind of tease this. If you want to travel around Europe, maybe you're, hey, from the States, I want to go and backpack around, or maybe you're in Europe and you want to kind of get your friends together and do a big old road trip. We've got Battle of Hastings, which is happening in Hastings, England, the weekend before that, which is the 7th through 10th. And then the next weekend is going to be the Extreme Barcelona event, so you could easily travel with your friends there. And then the weekend after that is going to be Simple Session 23 taking place in Estonia. So if you are going to plan an awesome trip all around 3 competitions, some of the best going on in all of Europe, you definitely have those bookends around Extreme Barcelona, Battle of Hastings, and Simple Session. So you could get a really full action-packed calendar for BMX. And I'm going to encourage as many riders as possible to travel, because when you do spend time in Barcelona sandwiched on either end traveling with your friends, you're going to really just have the trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. And a big shout out to the guys down at Source Park in Hastings, doing great stuff for both BMX and skateboard. And like you keep saying, there's more opportunities now. There's more parks being built because of the higher level of competition and because of that introduction into the Olympics as well. We're seeing all of those opportunities come up, and it's so good to be involved in it. I feel very lucky and privileged to be part of it. And having been in skateboarding for decades myself, to see all of these sports now providing proper funding and proper support for all of the riders is something very, very special, I think.
Yeah, and I know for a lot of core riders or skaters, there were maybe a little bit of like, hey, this is not the BMX or skating that, you know, they grew up doing, or you and I grew up doing, because we mentioned, you know, we didn't have that support out there. But the cool thing is, if you want to just go out and ride, you can still do that. But if you do want to follow a path and try to go towards the Olympics, or maybe offering this support, like we said, in one of these different nations, as far as their funding and their opportunities, from parks to coaching to the infrastructure that's there, those opportunities present themselves. And it's just a really great thing, because a lot of riders and skaters, I mean, you're lifers, you do this. It's, you know, every day skating, riding, you're driven by your passion. And then to have an opportunity where if you want to still continue pursuing being a part of it in some level, it's really great that that's there. So for anyone who's maybe a potential, hey, I'm a diehard and it's not necessarily my thing, well, that's cool. Encourage it. That's the best part about BMX and skating. You can make it yours. Do what you want. But the fact that we do have this opportunity, I think it's really cool. And we're just seeing that expansion of it. And like you mentioned earlier, BMX is reaching to all different pockets of the world. I mean, far-reaching, as we said. We have riders here from Ecuador and Peru, from China and the U.S. We've got everywhere kind of covered globally, and it's exciting to see. And we're getting new styles and faces. And also, if you want to travel around too, you have an opportunity to make more friends and go and see further regions of the world.
Yeah, I've toured all around the world and been to so many different places just through skateboarding myself. And being sat here going through our men's park final with you is an absolute privilege. And you can see so many people sticking with us. Look at the crowd just there in the background, all coming out and staying with us through the rain to see this second heat of our men's park final here at Madrid Urban Sports. We got the sun back out. That is definitely going to help as well. And we saw a bit of a rider's eye view from our drone pilot just then. And I think you could get a good gauge of the scale of this course from those shots, Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, this course, as we mentioned, it's constructed specifically for this event. And it's a great time to kind of focus a little bit because, as you mentioned, the sun is out. It looks like we're going to resume competition shortly. But on either side of the park, we do have those really big 4.5 meter tall wall rides, roll-ins, hips, and they're going to essentially give the riders that we saw in the first heat the chance to just build speed, keep the momentum going back and forth. And we don't want the competition to only be linear. So in the center of the course, we do have those box jumps that go in either direction. And then we have all different varying widths as far as our spine go. Some of them are 6-inch deck on top. We have another one that it hips a little bit, and then we have other ones out there that you can see from this drone footage that's flying by that are about 4 to 5 feet in length. And it gives the riders a lot of opportunity to essentially play with their speed and to kind of execute some tricks, especially if they can transfer from one ramp to the other out there.
Yeah, plenty of options in there. And we're seeing some quite high scores coming from those people that really are using every inch of the course and doing those transfers. So taking off from one ramp and landing in another. And how important is it for that use of course, Daryl? Because it's not just about the tricks that you're doing out there.
No, that's a really good thing that you bring up. So I always looked at part of Daniel Dhers' secret to his success, and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, would be his strategy where he would really look at a course and try to use every single ramp possible. So if you did look from a drone's eye view, looking down on the course, and you were to draw a line on each one of the ramp, you'd see that he almost put his tires on every single obstacle out there. And the judges want to know that. They just don't want to see somebody go back and forth in a straight line, and they're not utilizing the different parts of the course. Because when you do transfer, when you pump around, when you flow, you show that you have a lot of control. You're also able to utilize the course in a unique way, and it's also a lot more difficult to just go in a straight line. Anyone can practice that at home, but the fact that this course is here, you don't get the most amount of time to practice, and you have to adapt in real time. That's something that really they know, because they're riders themselves and they know what it's like. You show up to a contest, you got all the best riders, it's busy, it's fast, and it's hard to even practice any of those transfers because everyone's on the course at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about getting that practice time, working out that line, and getting it really well timed. You know, we're seeing people finishing their runs exactly on the final second, and it's so impressive to see that accuracy of riding, but that's the education of competition riding that we're seeing as well.
Yeah, it's really great, just the fact that we do have the riders where they can kind of give their own touch within that 60 seconds and their own style kind of blossom and come out. But we do have a lot of cool perspectives here from our drone shot that's flying around. I know that the camera operator, it's really cool. Like we were saying yesterday, we might have to enter in a whole nother competition for drone flying at our next year in Madrid. But to have these perspectives and almost hitting the ramps and seeing what it's like, and right there even doing a flip across one of those spines. Yeah, it's pretty cool to have that perspective out there.
Yeah, I'd certainly say he's in first place. I mean, there is only one place for our drone pilot, but he's certainly in first place as we go through the competition. So everybody's staying with us. The sun is now booming. That cloud is still lingering just over the other side of the course, but that doesn't matter now. We've got bright sunshine beaming down on the course, and it's certainly drying up. Team Squeegee are smashing it, and the friends that squeegee together stay together. The thing is, with having such a big course, when it rains, there's a lot of course to try and dry up. But they are definitely doing a great job. And thank you very much to each and every one of you who is staying with us and listening to us waffle on. Thank you for being here. Definitely let us know who you're excited to see in heat number 2. And definitely hammer the comments section and tell us what you think so far and what your predictions are for the podium. Definitely check out our Instagram at Urban World Series so you can stay up to date with everything that's going on with all the competitions, especially the coming up competition in Barcelona as well.
Well, Mark, as much as we want to think that everybody's sticking with us for our amazing squeegee commentary, I know that it's for our next 6 riders that they're hanging in, because our first rider that will be dropping is Jonathan Camacho, and he is such an exciting, full energy, action-packed rider. We got Bryce Tyron, who will be riding from the USA, 22 years old, and the list just continues going on and on. But as you see right there, that sun is pumping. The squeegees look like they have done their job. And yesterday, as we mentioned, there was a rain delay for our women's event. And within 30 minutes, we were back into action. So I think very shortly we'll get our riders pumping back out on the course. They'll have a few minutes to kind of get that blood flowing, get back their head in the game, and resume our competition.
Yeah, we had a bit of a light sprinkling yesterday, but a definite solid downpour today with some huge droplets. But here's some of our replays from heat number 1. There's Daniel, the Spaniard, flying over that box jump. And we're pretty much seeing everyone starting up on that wall ride. Up on the roll-in. Interesting to see that. I guess it's that power conservation and the way to start. You're not going to need to put too much effort into getting that speed. And you certainly need to conserve all of your energy when you're flying through the air like some of these guys.
Yeah, Mark, that's a good point. Riders can choose any vantage point that they want to start on the course. I mean, if they wanted to, they could start on flat ground. They could start in the middle of the box jump, wherever they want. It's their choice. And once they drop in, that clock is started. But essentially, you want to look at, hey, what tricks do I want to do? What are my kind of like main exclamation points on the course in that 60 seconds? And a lot of riders will almost work backwards in a way. And I say that because let's say if you want to do a transfer over the box jump or from the spine to the box jump, and you go, well, how do I get lined up for that? Well, usually you have to kind of think about what your course would be from the few hits beforehand, and how would you line up to have enough momentum and speed? Kind of link the whole thing together. So a lot of riders, like you said, dropping in on that big roll-in. They could get that big red carpet entrance over the box jump, get the big trick in, and then kind of keep their speed and momentum going, like we saw with that 360 triple tail whip right there. And then you can kind of keep the flow and momentum going across the park. If a rider does drop in from another vantage point, the judges do know that. There can be potentially more points, not just on the drop-in. It depends on what they do. But they'll see that uniqueness and that creativity and see somebody looking at it with a different perspective and a kind of looking to bring a little something different to the table. And that does play a factor.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be the bearer of bad news, Daryl. Here comes another small barrage of rain. It's just started again. Very disappointed to see that. But the sun remains out, and hopefully it'll burn it off pretty quickly. But if you've just joined us, we are halfway through our men's park final for BMX at Madrid Urban Sports 2023. It's the third year of this event. And I'm Mark Churchill, joined by the absolutely wonderful Daryl Now.
Well, so I appreciate that very much, Mark. I think I might have to have you travel around with me and introduce me to everywhere I go in my day-to-day life, because you know how to put a big smile on my face. You're definitely way too kind, but I do appreciate that. And I do have to say, one of the cool things about Madrid Urban Sports and just Urban World Series in general is the fact that you get to make so many friends and connections. And sometimes it might not even be with a fellow rider, you know, for the fact that, like, I know we're both in action sports, but you skate, I ride. Do skate a little bit, and I'm sure you'd be down to ride. But the fact that we've been able to connect and become friends, like, that's just what it's about. And you see so many fans here just hanging out and making that bond, and they're able to connect. And we see it at each one of our stops, and then they're hanging out more and more, and the party just kind of builds. And that's what the community is. So if you haven't given a chance to follow us on our Instagram, it's just at Urban World Series, and you can see a lot more of what I'm talking about. The behind the scenes, the culture, the party, and the lifestyle, the energy. There's just a certain vibe that we wind up building at each one of our events, and it's really great to be a part of, and that's where you make the bonds, the friendships, and those connections that continue throughout the years.
Yeah, 100%. You know, pretty much 99.9% of my long-lasting friendships are through skateboarding and BMX. We had such a good scene at our local park, Mayflower Park, both skateboard and BMXers just shredding all together, and it's so good to be involved in BMX out here at Madrid Urban Sports still. And it is about that camaraderie and about that whole kind of inclusion that you get. You know, I can turn up pretty much anywhere, find a skateboarder, and you've got somewhere to stay for the night, you know, in any city around the world. You don't need to speak the language. You can just speak the language of riding, whatever it is that you choose. And, yeah, you're just going to make friendships for life.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best parts about riding. I mean, obviously there's the freedom. You just get on your bike, get on your board, and just get out there and push on the streets. But you're meeting people, and you're helping and supporting and kind of just having a great time. Because, I mean, riding by yourself can be a lot of fun, but it's even better when it's with friends and you're just supporting each other, and you don't think you can do a trick and your friend is just cheering you on, whether it's in a contest or just at your local spot. And that's like some of the greatest aspects. And you just think about it, and it's like that brotherhood, that sisterhood, that bond. And when you have that through something like BMX or skating, that's where the lifetime bonds come in. And a lot of riders who find themselves and they're kind of like their footing in life, those are usually riders that wind up becoming lifetime riders, and they wind up just really having that connection to it. And you see them just being like down for life, so to speak. So we're still holding right here, getting ready for our event. You can see right there, Irek Raizev up on top of that sub box, checking to see if things are dry. We did have our rain delay start, and we are just taking a few moments right here to try to get the sun squeegee to get it rolling and get our riders back out on course.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. We're halfway through our men's BMX Park final out here at Madrid Urban Sports. Hopefully we'll be back very soon and get heat number 2 going as soon as possible. But like you've mentioned a couple of times, you've said it, we just need to make sure that this course is completely fair and everybody gets an equal opportunity. And we also, over everything else, it's paramount to make sure that it's safe to ride. So we'll be back very soon with heat number 2 of our men's BMX Park finals here at Madrid Urban Sports.
Hey, to the top.
posición, todo tiene que estar perfecto, todos los tornillos en su sitio, seco. ¡Ey! ¡Sí! Ok, bueno, estamos preparando. Vamos a repasar lista por aquí, estamos todos. Por ahí abajo Madrid, hemos vuelto. Y lo vamos a cerrar, nos quedan 6 riders. Solo nos hace falta una señal, que los chicos lo vean bien seguro. Contamos con su opinión y por supuesto que si vosotros estáis preparados, ¡ruido! Vale, que nos enfriamos, Mira, hablando, para no enfriarnos, el sol. Vamos a calentarnos con este sol.
So, welcome back to Madrid Urban Sports 2023. It's the 3rd year and the 3rd incarnation of this competition. We are halfway through our men's BMX Park final after having a short pause for rain. You can see our riders warming up. This is Daniel Dhers warming up on the course. We're moments away from getting our second heat started. We'll be kicking it off with Jonathan Camacho, followed up by Bryce Tyron, Jacob Thiem, Daniel Dhers, Eric Riziev, and Jude Jones, who was our first place qualifier through from yesterday's competition. Each rider gets 2 one-minute runs on the course. And it is best run counts. I'm Mark Churchill, and I'm very, very happy to be joined once again live from New York by the wonderful Daryl Now. Good to see you, Daryl.
Well, Mark, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here with you, with all of our riders and our BMX fans around the world. I love that the sun is back out and pumping as we have our final that has been underway, not only for a big chunk of euros, not only for a gold, silver, or bronze medal, but also for those points that can contribute to the Paris 2024 Games to determine which riders will be riding there and potentially become a gold medalist Olympian. But we do have some Olympians here today, specifically Daniel Dhers. He was on the course. He got a silver medal. You see him up there with the red sleeveless shirt and the Red Bull helmet. He is going to be riding in our second heat of our riders. We had 12 who qualified for the final, and we broke them down into 2 packs of 6. The first 6 riders already took to the course, and we are getting ready to have our second and our top qualifiers from yesterday take to the course.
Yeah, on screen right there we have Jonathan Camacho from Ecuador. He will be our first rider in, and we've just heard the horn go off for the end of practice. Not quite that much practice, but it is some nonetheless. So, 30 years of age. Run number 1 of 2. We've got a minute on the clock for Jonathan Camacho.
Camacho doing it for Vans Ecuador and Factory Bike. He's actually an Ecuadorian national champion. And at Extreme Barcelona, he has gotten the bronze medal 2 times before. So I know he'd love to be on top of that podium right here. As we mentioned as well, his bag got stolen when he got here in Madrid. So his pads, his helmet, his tools all went missing. He was thankfully able to scramble, get his gear, and didn't seem too fazed with how well that he rode in our qualifying. But right now we're going to see if he can battle the elements of this rain and be our first rider coming onto the course and keep his head in the competition and bring some of that wild style that Camacho is known for his first run of 2, Mark.
Yeah, so hard to be the first rider in any competition. And we do see some of those first run nerves coming into play, but these are all seasoned pros pretty much that are on the course today, so they know exactly what they're up to.
Yeah, Camacho definitely made a name for himself being a pretty wild rider out there, and I mean that in the best way possible. He would definitely send it, but he would do it in a big, stylish fashion that only Camacho can do, whether it be over the box jump or on quarter pipe, sometimes even jumping transfers no other rider would look at, and really giving his own unique flair. So it's going to be interesting to see his perspective and what he brings here in the finals. I know he wants to be on top of that podium, and that's what we're going to see a lot of our riders, I have a feeling, in our second heat, where they're going to put all their chips on the table, push them in the center of the felt, and go for broke, trying to be in that top spot. So right now, Camacho dropping in for his first run.
Whoa, taking an exit out of the course. Hopefully Jonathan is okay. We've got a great medical team out here in Madrid, and they'll be making their way over to check on him. And unfortunately, when you're throwing yourself upside down and doing as many whips as that was, you are putting yourself at risk. But with high risk is high reward, Daryl.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Camacho doing an exit stage right. That was always a signature move of the legendary rider Dennis McCoy. And we do know that right now, Camacho is definitely a tough rider. We never want to speculate, but there's also could potentially be a lot of nerves, a lot of energy. Sometimes riders just have to kind of get their bearings, and hopefully that's the case right now with Camacho. But as you said, we do have a great medical staff. And we've seen time and time again where riders just really need that moment to get their composure And then hopefully Camacho will be able to ride in the second run of heat number 2. And we do have that round of applause coming from our crowd. That usually is a good sign that our rider is up and able to, as we see right there, walk off the course, off that sideline behind the course to kind of get checked out. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll see Mr. Camacho in the second run. But let's take a look. The backflip coming around 1, 2 times, known as that helicopter, lands. His weight then just gets behind his seat off the side right of his bike, and then it just shot him off the course. And it was, again, a little hard to see from our perspective, but I think he might have collided with one of the generators out there. But hopefully he'll be all right and get a chance to ride in his second run.
Yep, second rider up with a minute on the clock. First run of 2 for the American Bryce Tyron. Here we go. Looking pretty hyped.
Big Bryce Tyron dropping in. Double backflip. That is how you make that red carpet entrance. Very nicely done. 22 years age, but he's been riding his entire life. Recently just got engaged. Big shout out to his fiance right now. Also his mom and dad that are big supporters and have been behind his entire BMX career. Look at this, letting it rip. Just flowing and floating. This is actually some of the fastest and highest riding we've seen with the tricks go down so far, Mark.
Yeah, 100%. And starting the run off like that, that was definitely making a statement to the rest of the riders saying, hey, I'm here and I'm going for it.
What? Huge front flip with the bar spin. So a thing to note about Bryce's riding, he's a goofy-footed rider. That means his right foot forward and he spins to the right. So his whips are all switch, and he also does long bar spins. So what I mean by that, you saw that bar spin he just threw over the spine. It's almost taking the long way home as opposed to throwing it into his foot. You could see it's kind of a little bit of his signature that he's developed over time. But that was a huge run. I have a feeling we're going to see a big score to match the big round of applause coming from our fans here in Madrid.
Yeah, solid first run coming through there for Bryce. He's going to be very happy with that. And this is where it started. Double trouble over that box jump.
Boom. You see he had so much momentum coming down in compression. He was able to, though, flex those knees, get that landing. And there's the front flip with the bar spin. Similar to the front flip with the turn down. You got to clear your knees out of there to make sure you can get it around. And look at that, popping upside down and around, getting the full rotation, spotting the landing, putting his shoulder down, and then riding away.
So 77 is the score to beat. 82.67. He's not just beat that 77, but he's way up there and sitting in first place after run number 1. That is a comfortable place to be right now.
Yeah, it's got to feel good for Bryce coming out, getting it done, and making his mark. And presence felt in his first run, but we are keeping this party rolling to our next rider from the USA, Jacob Thiem.
Yeah. Fellow team rider starting up on that jump box. Wow, that's the way to start it off, that red carpet entrance that you keep mentioning.
Yeah, so one thing about Jacob, I was talking to him about his riding, and he throws in so many bar spins and whips. Not only can he do the triples, he can also do quads. So we're going to rely on that slow-mo or you in the comments to let us know how many tail whips and bar spins are going around. But Jacob is on one right now, completely charged up. There was that triple, I believe, over the spine, and he has really been pushing his riding. He's been riding a lot with Daniel Sandoval, backyard ramp riding, and just really dialing things in as he is just coming over that box jump. 19 seconds. And Mark, we've got a solid run. If he can keep the momentum flying, we might have a new leader.
Yeah, Jacob absolutely smashing it. And it's not just what he's doing, it's how he's doing it. Such good execution. And that is what is getting rewarded so well by the judges today.
Yes, doing it for free agent, gain protection, hang 5 gear, fist gloves, and Ethica. But also for the USA, I know that his coach, Ryan Nyquist, is definitely pumped to witness this coming around too. That was 3 times with the bar spin, which is insane. And then here's a look, full rotation, spot in the shoulder, into the landing, and there you got the bars with that 720. So much rotation going on. I love seeing the camaraderie from the two USA riders out there.
Whoa, are you kidding me? Coming straight out. Run number 1 for Jacob Thiem is a 90 straight. We're way up there in the 90s already, Daryl. That is a colossal score for run number 1.
Yeah, we're seeing the heat turned up as we work it through our riders.
Okay, next rider up. We have the absolute legend, and you can hear the crowd screaming. It is time for the Daniel Dhers show.
Daniel Dhers, 5-time X Games gold medalist, UCI World Cup champion, and the Tokyo 2020 silver medalist for BMX Freestyle. The legend dropping in right now. Yeah, Dhers with a solid start. I like that alley-oop no-hander. He had to float backwards to set up his line to come in over that spine. And Dhers right now has the flow. Let's definitely take a look and think about his line choice on the park. And if he utilizes every one of those box jumps and spines out there, which he's actually doing, as you see, he just weaves left and right and left across the park.
Yeah, he's certainly got that use of course box ticked. And all the transfers in there as well. This is looking great for run number 1 for Daniel Dhers.
Big flip transfer, and look at it. He just keeps alley-ooping to just set up so he can come over with tricks like that off-axis 720. Dhers having no blank walls right here. He knows that he's going to have to just pack as many tricks as possible on every single hit to compete with that big 90 score that he's trying to beat.
Wow. Time that run absolutely perfect, and the crowd out here is going absolutely wild. I can barely hear anything. Biggest screams of the day for Daniel today, and he is looking charged up after that run. Look at that.
The can, just putting the foot over that top tube, taking the hand off. Great style. If you were to take a silhouette of that, it would be picture perfect. There you go, transferring with the 360 double tail whip, just floating backwards. Here's a look at that off axis, just spinning right clean to the top of the transition and getting it flowing. We are seeing some classic Daniel Dhers out on competition.
Yeah, great foot position on landings and on his hands as well, getting back on the bars. You see everything is kind of computer perfect on his riding.
Yeah, I mean, he is a veteran with a lot of experience. And the cool thing with Daniel, like I mentioned, he's using his platform on such a big level where he's really working with Venezuela and providing opportunity. He's got a foundation with learning and teaching fellow, not only riders, but also entrepreneurialism, how to handle yourself. I mean, you don't be a top pro and be in the spotlight for over 20 years without having some kind of magic. And he's just kind of sprinkling that on the future generation. So it's really great to see Daniel not only on course but off course taking advantage of the opportunities that the Olympics have created.
Yeah, well said. And he's jumped straight into second place after run number 1. So he's going to have to step up that run and maybe change it up to get up onto that gold position. Next rider up, we're taking it to Irek Riziev. Whoa! Starting in a different position, Daryl.
Yeah, doing that transfer as opposed to going over the box. Big no-handed 720. 6-time national champion. Big shout out. He wanted to let his wife Dasha know that he's getting cheered on. Also his mom Zemfira and the locals at Urim Park, who are really hyped to just see how much he's been able to not only progress as a rider but bring it here in our finals. So right now, Riziev at that halfway mark, kicking those tail whips around like a madman, transferring. And we are seeing, Mark, different lines on the course that no other rider has taken. And especially when he jumps into that box jump backwards, it's a steeper takeoff and the level of difficulty is increased.
Yeah, so intimidating to jump that box backwards. You can see the sharp edge on that takeoff ramp. That is something you definitely don't want to hang up on. 5 seconds on the clock. And something that stood out for me on this run is that use of course, hitting it completely different than anyone else.
Yeah, you can see right there a lot of energy, big smiles on the face. And if you do want to see anything behind the scenes in Irek's life, he's had a YouTube channel for quite some time, but he recently launched an English version one. You could just type his name into YouTube and check out some of his travel BMX training and some of his exploits as he is just pursuing to get to Paris 2024 and what it's like to be a top rider. But great style right there, just getting that unlooked down flare. So you can see instead of doing a turn down where you twist the handlebars, he still got the bike in that same sideways position, manipulating the pedals to get it vertical, and then just doing the flip with the 180 spot in the landing to come in.
I'm really interested to see this score come in because for me, choosing different lines around the course should be rewarded, and it has been 88.33 for run number 1. Great score there as we move through this competition back round to our first place qualifier through to our finals from Great Britain. We have the amazing Jude Jones. Dropping in on that big roll in. Here we go.
Whoa, turning things up right there, Jude Jones. Now that is such a way to make your presence known. Front flip with the tail whip coming around, spotting the pedals, alley-oop tail whip. We mentioned riders wanting to put all their chips on the table, and Jude right now is going for broke. He finished in that qualifying position in first, and he wants to do the same in the final. Big 1-foot X transfer, look to set up 360 bar spin to downside tail whip around that head tube, hitting that quick wall to set up for speed. 360 with the bar spin. This is make or break right here. We're talking about it all competition. If he can keep it going, and he does 3 times around, getting that 1080. Here we go, Jude Jones, 15 seconds. Mark, this could be a huge score if he's able to keep it going with tricks like that front flip, where he winds up transferring into that wedge, looking for a final exclamation point. But Jude Jones is on fire, and he gets it with the big front flip over the spine, and that was a massive run, Mark.
Wow. I'm almost speechless after that, and that's saying something. I was expecting big things, but I am blown away by the standard of Jude's riding in run number 1. Let's check out those replays. That's where we started it, just getting that round.
So doing the decade with the 360 to bar spin, turning it up. So he wrapped around his head tube for a full decade, put his feet back on the pedals, did a 360 with the bike, and threw the handlebars. If you think that's a tongue twister trying to explain, imagine pulling that off as your first trick. That's where risk reward comes in.
Yeah, and a 94.33, definitely getting that high risk reward and sitting in that first place position. Huge score for run number 1 for Jude Jones. We're going to take it back to the top of the heat and where we started with the Ecuadorian Jonathan Camacho. And something to say, in this second heat of our men's park final, it seemed like everybody came out of the gate swinging then.
Yeah, we talk about that. The riders want to be on top of that podium. They want these points. They want to just really go for it. And unfortunately, we had Camacho not able to complete his first run. But fortunate for us, he's back on the bike, getting it done this time. The backflip double tail. And look at the height on that quarter pipe. I'm going to say unofficially the highest air we've seen thus far of the competition after that first box jump, Mark.
Yeah, he's definitely not holding back, and that was huge as well, but hanging up the back wheel just over that volcano, but keeping the speed and keeping that line going.
Yeah, Camacho is definitely a live wire, and we're seeing that height. It's so difficult to pop that height and keep things in the park, and Camacho is doing that. 25 seconds, so let's see if he's able to keep even a quarter of that momentum in the height for the rest of his run. That is definitely something that is difficult to do. But Camacho right now, 15 seconds to go, 360 tail whip. Oh, and then just going right off the back of the bike, not able to get his feet back on that horse. But look at the crowd's appreciation for Camacho. He's always a fan favorite because of the energy that he brings, and he just connects. And look at the smile on his face, and everyone in Madrid going absolutely crazy for Camacho.
Yeah, here's those reruns coming back and getting it done this time. Always good to see the redemption on that. And that was just the way that the run started, and it just got better and better as we move forward, Daryl.
Yeah, Camacho, always one of my favorites just from that energy that he has. And the fact that he was able to blast so high was really exciting to see.
But getting that 57.67. Looking a bit disappointed as he's grabbing some well-earned air. Would have liked to have seen that run completed with what I think he was trying to get done in his practice runs as well. But we are moving swiftly on back to the USA and Bryce Tyron. The crowd out here in Madrid are absolutely hyped on BMX, as always. Look at that crowd in the background as we go in to run number 2 for Bryce.
Yes. 2 for 2 on that double flip. Bryce doing it for Free Agent, Cali Protectives, Alienation BMX, KHE Bikes. And right now he's also doing it for his fiance, who is cheering him on. Big shout out to Michaela, who is one of the biggest Bryce fans in the world, and so are we, as he is just letting it rip, trying to turn things up. We mentioned in his first run that he is a goofy-footed rider. That's because his right foot's forward and he spins to the right, allowing some opportunity for some unique foot placement tricks, especially look backs. And when he does his bar spins, he throws them in the long way around. And right there was a front flip version of that, as he is just pumping and working it right now as he gets that no-handed transfer. Yes, Bryce, come on. Final thoughts right here. 10 seconds to go. One-footed table, maybe time for a final thought. 360 with the bar variation, looking back, and that is time for Bryce Tyron.
Another solid run there for Bryce, showing the crowd some respect there as well. They've been screaming for him all the way through that run. Maybe stepping up the execution. He landed everything so clean. Let's check out where we started with the double backflip.
Yeah, that double backflip was huge. Look at the style right there. That 1 foot just dangling off the side right there. There's the front flip with the bar spin. And we talk about being best run format that counts. So if a rider does a similar style and go, there's the fiance giving him a little bit of a victory kiss as scores are coming in.
85.33, so improving on that first run score, and currently sitting in that 4th place position just outside of the podium.
Impressive riding, though, from Bryce.
Yeah, he should be very happy and taking back some pride back to the USA. And we're keeping it with the USA right now with Jacob Thiem. Run number 2, another minute on the clock. And he's hyping up the crowd. I'm hyped to see this one. His first run was very, very impressive.
All right, all eyes are on those bars and also those tail whips, because he has the ability for quads. That's right, quads 4 times around. So let's see what it's going to be. 360 downside single tail whip. As mentioned, he rides a lot with Daniel Sandoval in the backyard ramp setup. 360 over that box jump backwards, just kind of setting up for the flow to bring a hammer to us. 360 tail whip to bar spin, throwing those bars in that 540. Jacob right now just floating on through.
I feel like Jacob could add a bar spin to pretty much any trick he could do.
Yeah, I mean, he's got not only the bars, but he can do them really late at the last second, just kind of throw it in, where most riders that would be a main focus. And for him, it's almost an afterthought. And the fact that he could put so many in one air, it's a pretty wild thing of just his control. But he also wanted me to give a shout out to his mom, Kimberly, who's watching, cheering him on. Family first is definitely their motto. And right there, going for that flare with the tail whip, feet on the pedals. And Madrid right now, definitely earning some big fans for Jacob Thiem.
Yeah, 100%. And definitely best gloves of the day for me. So this is where we started it off. Let's check out those replays for Jacob run number 2.
Those bars just so comfortable, and you see that 720 with the body position, full commitment, pulling back, and just looking for that perfect landing coming in. And going to give an opportunity to shout out his sponsor for those gloves. That is Fist Gloves, one of his sponsors, getting behind. And it's important when riders do have sponsors because they can support their dreams and career on their BMX journey.
So he's got a nervous wait now. He's currently staying with that 90 for run number 1. That was that score. And he's going to have to sit and wait and watch the rest of the heat ride. 3 more riders left of heat number 2 to see whether he's going to be toppled out of that silver medal position. And it's now time for the Venezuelan run number 2 for Daniel Dhers.
So Dhers dropping in. Let's see if we got a little bit of Daniel Dhers signature strategy where he turns things up in his second run. He usually puts down a solid one and then says, hey, I'm going to throw a couple more difficult tricks in my run. Hopefully, then the only way to go up is up in points, and he can bring it to a little bit of a higher level. But Dhers right now floating and flowing again, that halfway mark as he does that off-axis 720, landing a little bit low right there, losing his momentum. And Dhers, the veteran of the sport, is going to wave it on off, knowing that his first run had a much cleaner start to things, and he wasn't going to necessarily be able to top that first run score. So he's going to wind up waving it off and saving himself for another day.
Yeah, he knew that that wasn't going to be the first run score, so he's called it there. You saw the foot slip off the pedal there, and I think that really knocked him for this run number 2.
Yeah, he wanted to turn it up right there, and you saw on that last tail whip come around, there has to be so much commitment for the bike on that triple tail whip. So you're just waiting for very, very last second. You only have a split second to put the wheels down on the ground and your feet on the pedals, and he wound up slipping one a little bit, but he was able to keep rolling.
Yeah, and it's so important to land that first trick to give you the confidence and to give you the power up that you need to go forward and try some really, really technical, difficult tricks. So run number 2 for Irek. Wow.
Very spicy right there, getting that heat on that transfer. And you mentioned in his first run, Mark, that he had an unconventional first hit doing the transfer, and it looks like he's going to stick with that same formula, but trying to just get it a little bit more dialed and maybe putting in a few more hits in each one of those airs, trying to link the combos together.
Yeah, he is floating out there and flying. Looking really good so far. We got just under 30 seconds remaining. Really trying to step up from that run number 1 score.
As mentioned, Eric does have a English YouTube channel, which is really cool that he's promoting and pushing, where you can see all behind the scenes footage from his perspective at each one of the contests that he travels to. But right now we're trying to get the judges' perspective on their thoughts. Unfortunately, going down at the end of your run. Mark, if a rider does crash, you want to do it at the end of the run because you did get a chance to get all the points going at the beginning, and you're not as penalized as if it's your first ramp that you touch, but that's still going to be disappointing, and it's going to be hard to even recover from such a big crash.
That's where that run started. The cameraman having to zoom way out to keep him in frame then. That tells you just how high that first hit was. So currently in that 3rd place position, 88.33. I doubt we're going to see an improvement on that because of the fall. Yep, 71.67. So sticking with that first run score. And he's got to sit and watch our current leader, Jude Jones, dropping in for a victory run right now. So Jude Jones gearing up for getting down. Another minute on the clock out of Great Britain. Run number 2.
So Jude Jones, let's see if he winds up putting on a show for the crowd. Maybe he'll just drop in and coast. But regardless, his mom, Katie, his dad, Simon, his brothers, Manny and Ruben are cheering him on. Also, his little cousin, Roxy, who loves to watch him compete, but the family support means the world to him. And it's been great witnessing him having that support and just blossoming as a rider. He rides at Corby a lot. He's doing it for Core as well. And just having that whole backing is really important. And we know the fact that Jude came out here in his first run was, I mean, it was unbelievable. He just really brought it. That 360 bar spin after the decade, so much going on. It's just unbelievable to even think about that being your first hit. And I kind of, to be honest with you, Mark, I'm hoping that he brings another solid run, seeing if he could top it. He doesn't have to because he's sitting in that top spot, but it's fun watching Jude ride at the level that he is and seeing him just develop to a whole nother level as far as his competition goes.
Yeah, it's a difficult decision to whether to put on a show, knowing that the rest of the year is ahead of you and some big competitions coming up. And not wanting to get hurt, but definitely wanting to absolutely shred out there. And look at that crowd. They really want to see something special from Jude.
just lofting a 720 right there. It looks like Jude is just going to cruise and coast. For him, because this could be anybody else's final run, but just knowing the way he started things off again with that decade to truck driver, Jude is just going to drop in, let the clock go, and just coast around the course until he goes in the middle and gets a huge roaring applause from all of our fans in Madrid, essentially taking up where there's no more standing room to just get a glimpse of his riding.
Yeah, he'd already run it on run number 1. Phenomenal riding, as always, from Jude. And just taking it easy on run number 2 because he knew he'd already run it. Or won it, sorry.
It's funny that a 720 and a front flip is taking it easy.
Yeah.
Jude Jones, that's the name of his game right there.
But that tells you just how gnarly he is. You know, such a high standard, even on the chill moves. So, Great Britain taking the win out here at Madrid Urban Sports in our men's BMX Park finals, and definitely accruing a huge amount of points towards those Olympic scores. So ending it on the 94.33, and down there in 90 points we have Jacob Thiem, and then Irek coming through in that 3rd place with 88.33. Such great level of riding today. Do you think it could have been a little bit different if we hadn't have had the delay for the rain, though, Daryl?
That is a very good question. I mean, we're not going to know, but I will tell you that it definitely worked in favor for Mr. Jones, with him able to come out on top. He was able to just play his cards right and just bring the hammer, the 94, the highest score of the day. So if you're Jude, you're definitely appreciative of that rain and that it worked in his favor.
Yeah, quite a big gap there from teammate Miller Temple. Would have really liked to have seen him put down the full run he was after. But great scores there. And Daniel Dhers in unfamiliar territory, middle of the pack on this one. So we're going to get those podiums out on the course. They're already there. Our drone pilot giving us a little view of that 3, 2, and 1. There's our winner, Jude Jones. Obviously looking stoked right now. We're going to be giving out that bronze, silver, and gold medal. And I must say thank you very much to each and every one of you watching at home and sticking with us through the weather delay. We really appreciate you staying tuned, and I think you were definitely rewarded by staying tuned with some amazing BMX riding.
We are just moments away from giving out our medals, and also not only that, giving out our Euros, but also the important points going for Paris 2024 games. If you're interested in seeing any of the current standings or how you can get involved, just go to the UCI website. They have a full breakdown and explanation of the points process, of who's potentially going to be there and how that all works. It's very detailed, but they have it organized, and you can get into the nitty-gritty and also find out where there's other competitions going on in your local area, much like our Extreme Barcelona event that's going to be taking place in the middle of September. So you can go on and check it out, find out the details, the information, and you could join us in person at the next party that we got planned with our Urban World Series.
Yeah, Extreme Barcelona is shaping up to be a great competition this year, as always. As has been our BMX competitions over the weekend here at Madrid Urban Sports. So you can see there a tray full of medals waiting to be given to each of our top 3 riders. I think BMX wins once again, though. today out in Madrid. Hopefully Jude was texting the Jones family there to let everyone know how well he's done.
Yeah, as we said, his mom, Katie, his dad, Simon, his brothers definitely give him that support, but his little cousin, Roxy, is always cheering him on. And we talk about that being so important, not only with having the support of your federation and your country, but having a good family core and friends around you when you ride. It definitely can translate, because you got to work so hard on a daily basis, putting your body and mind through a lot to pull these tricks off.
So there's our medals. Bronze, silver and gold for our top three. It looks like we're just about to give those medals out.
A nice little souvenir to be leaving Madrid with one of those medals and the checks for all your hard work.
I'd definitely be wearing that medal on the flight home, trying to get upgraded to business class for sure. I'd be like, yo, come on, sort me out. Check out this bling.
I love how committed our fans have been throughout all the weather conditions that we've had today. And it's just cool to see that energy cheering on our riders.
Yeah, for sure. They've been scorched, soaked, and burned again out here in the Madrid sun.
See our third place rider, Irek Raizev, getting onto the podium, getting a pound, getting the medal, and getting a bag of goodies right there.
Yeah, Blue Blana hooking up our riders with those goodie bags. Irek smashing it today. So good to see him. He was the first person back on the course after rain. He was chomping at the bit to get going. There's that silver medal being worn with pride right there. Super stoked. But there could be only one first place and gold medal to be given away, and it goes to Great Britain's Jude Jones, and well earned. Highest score of the day, and absolutely well deserved gold medal. Great riding from all our top three. Bronze, silver and gold today out at Madrid Urban Sports, men's BMX park. But every single person who got through to the final, that is such a big deal. So congratulations to everyone getting through. But Irek there with the 88.33, followed up by Jacob Thiem with the 90, and 94.33 going to our gold place medalist, Jude Jones.
Open up your life, the future's gonna be alive, cause we're living in the darkness and you hate it every time. So you just gotta change, man, open up your mind to the beautiful things around.
And definitely thank you very much to Daryl now for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to have you along, mate.
Here to call all the greatest riding in the world that we saw, and also Jude Jones stepping to the plate, getting on top of that podium. Very exciting stuff. I want to give a big shout out to all the BMX riders around the world. A lot of love, a lot of pain for Pat Casey, who's not with us, but we feel you, and we're thinking of you, Pat, and also to his family. So much love to the BMX family and community, and we thank you for joining us today, too.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll be back with our men's scooter park final, and then later tonight we will have our men's scooter street final. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon with more from Madrid Urban Sports 2023.
Life is complicated, I see it, I feel your pain. But if you open up the change it, then you could be okay with all the pressure and all the pressure around. You could be living till you can start up from the ground. You can take one step, hey, you could really lounge in the sky, cause you could just change. Yeah, do it now, yeah, today. Oh yeah, today. And not tomorrow, cause that's what they always say. Oh, you can pray, that's not the way. Cause you just gotta take action and just go insane, yeah.
¿Y yo qué culpa tengo si me han tirado a la piscina con el móvil en el bolsillo, papá? Buen argumento, ¿eh? Vamos con esta.
Tranquilo, que tu padre lo tiene fácil. Porque ahora, por ser de mi Movistar, puedes tener hasta 5 dispositivos. Estrenar uno está bien, estrenar más es mejor.
Ah, y carita de pena, eso no falla.
En Imagine tenemos una pregunta. ¿De qué color ves nuestro logo? ¿Verde o azul? Si lo ves verde es porque juntos ya hemos plantado más de 300.000 árboles. Si lo ves azul es porque hemos retirado más de 21 toneladas de plástico del mar. Y es que somos muy azules, y muy verdes, y muy azules, y también verdes, y azules, claro. Imagine, somos lo que hacemos.
Las pequeñas alegrías no son pequeñas, son la alegría. Date una alegría. Ven, Andalucía.
I'ma get it poppin', yes, I gotta get it rockin'. While the people always tell